Now, can you hear me now? Am I audible to you? Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Yeah, now I'm audible. Okay, fine. So I was talking to you about priestly things where George Herbert speaks about his life. The caller is one of the beautiful poems written by him. Whenever a teacher teaches you, please have the textbook with you. Please open the poem with you. The caller, written by George Herbert. George Herbert. The caller. I struck the boat and cried no more. I will abroad. What? Shall I ever sigh and pine? My lines and lives are free, free as a road, loose as the wind, as large as store. Shall I be still in suit? In this particular first stanza here, I stuck I stuck God's dinner table in protest. He tells that he wanted to protest against his life. And he shouts, I have no more of this life of slavery. Remember, students, he is a priest and who wanted to give up his life and wants to go out in pursuit of worldly pleasures. Remember, I stuck the board. Board here indicates the table. Here means dinner table and is an allusion to the first Holy Communion or the Eucharist, which is ceremony observed in the church in congregation is served with the wine, little wine and the bread. And it is believed in the Christian belief that the Last Supper of the Christ, Last Supper of Christ, where all the priests in the community sit there and have, and when they observe the mass, when they celebrate the mass, usually they have a cup of wine and a bread. And this is where the particular poet here stucks on bangs on the table, and tells that I don't want to continue my life here. I don't want to continue my life here. How is it possible that I should continue to lead a life of desire and longings which are never be satisfied here in the service of God? Remember, according to the rules and regulations of clerical order, here a person who becomes a priest cannot seek the worldly pleasure. Here he tells, he is talking about giving up his priestly life, coming out of his four walls to enjoy the worldly pleasure. That's what the first line, I struck the board and cried no more, I will abroad. That means I will go out. What shall I ever sigh and pine? My lines and lives are free and free as the road. My life is free like a road. I have the liberty to go out. I have the liberty to go out and enjoy the life given to me. No one can restrain my life. I want to be free as the road, and I want a life as independent as the wind, as liberal as the rich storehouse. Why should I always remain in a position of servitude to the church and to God? Why I should remain to be a faithful, to be a servant to the church and the Lord. I can enjoy my life. And I want my life to be as free as the road and as liberty as the wind. He just strikes the board, the dining table, in protest against the rules and regulations that are put by the church. Let us see. Have I no harvest but a thorn to let me, Lord, and not restore what I have lost with cardinal fruit? It tells, am I entitled no reward of any kind? Am I to be all the time pierced by the thorn that makes me to bleed? Am I always be put behind those rules and regulations? And it just tells us that he is walking on the thorn, and which always gives him bleed and makes him bleed. Am I to be offered no nourishing fruit which can be restored to me what I have lost by giving up a secular life? That's what he tells. I've given up. I had the opportunity. I have the opportunity of enjoying my worldly pleasures. This I'm teaching the two poems of George Herbert. George Herbert. One is the Caller, and one more is the Discipline. That was the message. Hardcore 1.1. Yeah. Chaucer to Milton. It just tells us, I had the opportunity of enjoying my worldly pleasures. But what I have done, after becoming a priest, I have given up all my life, all the pleasures of my life. Surely there must be wine to drink before I took up this religious life, which made me sigh with longing all the time, and as a result of which all the wine simply dried up. It tells that he had the opportunity to enjoy, but now the pleasure of his life has demolished. And that's what, there is a conflict in him. There is a conflict in him. There is a conflict in him where he wanted to give up his priestly life and wants to enjoy his worldly life. To be or not to be, that is the question here. To be a priest, there is one part of his soul tells him to be a priest, and another part of his soul in the form of devil tells him, George Herbert, give your life away, come out and enjoy your worldly pleasures. And there is a debate in him. There is a debate in him. That's what he continuously tells. Is the year lonely lost to me? Have I no bias to crown it? No flowers, no garlands to gay? All blasted, all wasted. Not so, my heart, but there is fruit, and thou hasn't hands. It tells, am I only one have lost the whole year of my life in leading this life of self-denial while others enjoy worldly pleasures? Am I only denied? Am I only denied of these worldly pleasures? Am I to have less to crown my life? No flowers, no happiness in my life? Is my life blighted then? Has my life been completely wasted? There is a question here. There is a question here. There is a question here. Is my life completely lost, wasted? Such is not the case, my heart. All is not lost yet. There is still fruit available. This one part of his soul tells him, George Herbert, all your life is not lost. There is some part of fruit is left to you, available, and still I have the use of my hands with which I can pluck the fruits and eat it instead of continuing to lead a life of renunciation. And there is a rebellious act in him where he tells that he wants to, renunciation means to give up. He wants to give up his priestly life and to come out and to enjoy the worldly pleasures. To be a priest, according to the priestly orders there, to be a priest is very, very difficult. I'm not talking about a present scenario. I'm talking about the olden days. If a person wants to be a priest, he has to completely surrender himself to God. He cannot enjoy, he cannot come out of the four walls. His only duty is to preach the gospel of God. But whereas the present scenario, when we look into the present priests, people come out, and priests come out, they mingle with the people, they go and teach in the university. And here George Herbert is also having the conflict in him. Don't worry, I'm going to explain to you the background of the story here. Don't worry. Let us see what happens next further in the poem, The Caller. Look at the title, The Caller. What is the caller here? The caller here is this he talks about. This particular caller, when we look into the priest, he wears a cassock or the alb, a long white gown. This is called the caller. Caller is something where his life, his spiritual life, his worldly life is tied together with God. With God. It just tells us next, let me get away from the church and the religious life. He wants to just move out of his religious life to make me let me take a warning and become a free as the restraints of this life. And again, he has got the rebellious things in him. He wants to give up his worldly, he wants to give up his priestly life and wants to come out. Let me no longer pray and eat to the dead man's skull, which frightens us with the broad of death. It just tells, I don't want to preach the gospel of God. I want to enjoy the worldly pleasures. Let us see here, just read here. The robe of sands which pretty thoughts have made and made thee good cable of enforce and draw and be thy law, while thou didn't wink and wouldn't see. And again, it comes out with lots of questions to the people, or lots of questions to himself, so that he can give up his life. Who has the patience enough to lead a life of servitude and to serve his own deed, deserves his burden and can never get free. And again, he comes out with the same mistake. He couldn't understand the aspects of life here, and he tells us that To be a priest is very difficult. To enjoy the worldly pleasures are very easy. In order to escape from his life, and he tells us that, and he quotes many, he just extracts many examples from his life and tells us why he wants to give up his life. And he wants to be free. And 33 to 36 line, where he tells us, but as I talked in this way, in the manner of Madam, and I became more and more ignorant with the wild, with very wild, very word. It seemed to me that someone called out saying that when he was rebellious about his life, and when he wanted to give up his life, and he could hear the voice of God. Look at the last line. I have raved and grew more fierce and wild, and every word my thought I heard calling, child, and I replied, my Lord. And whenever he had the rebellious things in him, and God came out and touched his life and told him, my child, and he obeyed the commands of God, and he turned to be the good child of God and to remain in the religious life till the rest of his life. Yeah, we were talking about the background. I was talking to you about George Herbert and what are the things that you need to concentrate about your examination point of view. There are many texts that are prescribed for your study. George Herbert, Bunyan, John Milton, and George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, Shakespearean, this one drama, Shakespearean dramas, and there is a paper separate with Shakespearean paper, and there is a paper called literary criticism, and all these things you people need to learn. Yeah, there are many students who asked me many questions, sir, why we need to study English literature. English literature will give us the pleasure. And there are many students who have opted science or commerce or MBA or BBA in their UG program, and many students have taken up English literature for their post-graduation. And they ask me so many questions, sir, what is the use of learning English literature? Unless and until one has the passion towards particular subject, you cannot enjoy. As a teacher, I tell you, one should have the passion towards learning. If you don't have the passion towards learning, you cannot understand. Don't think that is only merely a story to comprehend, and whatever it is there in the textbook, we read or learn by heart and we reproduce it in the paper. Not like that. One should himself or herself involve completely in reading a text. And there are many students who just yesterday I had a call with the students. They told me that, can I study the summary? It is not at all easy for a person to write the exam if you study the summary of the poem or summary of the text. We should always read between the lines. One should always go through the entire textbook first before going to the secondary material. There are many characters which are found throughout English literature. Maybe talks about general prologue, whatever the textbooks which are studied, and there is a theme in it. And what is the theme? And what is the author wants to give the message to the society here? And today I was talking about The Caller, written by George Herbert. And it talks about his rebellious acts to be a priest or to be a common man to enjoy the worldly pleasures. Here, from the beginning, from the first line till the 34th line, where he had the argument to give up his priestly life. at the end, when he could hear the voice of God, and he always obeyed the commands of God, and to be a servant of God, to be a priest. Caller. This is, remember, questions may be asked like this. And what are the themes that the author tries to tell us through the poem, The Caller? And comment on the title of the poem, The Caller. And what are the images that are used in this particular poem? And conflict versus restoration. Conflict versus resolution. What is the conflict he had in the beginning of the poem, and how he just wanted to resolve, he finds a solution from the problem. And there are two things or three things you should keep it in mind. When you write an answer to the question, it's better to take few quotes from the particular poem. I just tell you, I struck the board and cried, no more I will abroad. That means he just strikes on the dining table. Dining table symbolizes the table where Christ had the last supper with the disciples. Jesus had 12 disciples. Before he was crucified, he had last supper with them. And he strikes on that particular table and tells, I am not going to be a priest hereafter. I'm not going to be a priest hereafter. And I want to give up this worldly, this priestly life, and I want to go out. And at the end, he just accepts his mistake to be the servant of God, to continue his priestly life. This is one particular poem. And another poem which is prescribed for your study is The Discipline. It is also one of the beautiful poems written by him. Please, if you have the textbook, please open the textbook. Please open the textbook, and I'll tell you how to read a poem, and how to understand, or how to comprehend a particular poem, and how to prepare a poem from the examination point of view, or how to read the poem. Let us see what is a particular poem talks to us. The Discipline, written by him, George Herbert. And let me read a few lines from the particular poem. Throw away thy rod, throw away thy wrath, O God, take the gentle path, for my heart's desire unto thine is bent. I aspire to a full consent. Not a word or look I affect to own, but by book and thy book alone. And this particular poem is an appeal from the poet to God to deal with human beings gently and sternly. And he requests the people, he requests God to be a gentleman while dealing with the people. The poet entreats to God to throw away the rod of punishment. Whatever the religious we belong to, we have the tendency of belief that whatever the karmas we do today on this particular earth or particular place on this earth, we will have the consequence in heaven or hell, whatever it is. Whenever we come to the judgment, we have that particular judgment whenever we go to heaven and hell. And he gently asks, it is an appeal to God. George Herbert appeals to God to be a gentle, Don't use the rod of punishment. Instead, what it tells, instead, it tells, use his love in order to change the concept of the human beings or the thinkings of the human beings. The first four lines I'm going to explain to you. Throw away the rod of punishment, let your indignation subside and give way to coolness. Oh my God, I entreat you to adopt a mild course in dealing with the human beings like me. That's what he is also included as a human being here. Why people are punished here? Why people or the sinners are punished? Sinners are punished because of their sins. According to the Christian belief, we just assume, or according to the Bible, it is Adam and Eve who committed the first sin in garden, where God created human beings, man and woman there, and he left there with lots of freedom, and he told them not to touch that forbidden tree. It is Eve who tempted Adam to taste that forbidden tree, forbidden fruit. Touch forbidden tree and taste forbidden fruit. And when Eve ate the forbidden fruit, and he also told Adam to taste it, when both of them finished eating, and they felt they are naked, and they hid behind the bush. When God appeared before him and told him, have you eaten the forbidden fruit? And tells, Lord, don't come to me, or don't come to us, we are naked. And God asks them the question, who told you that you are naked? Before they ate the forbidden fruit, they were unaware of the things. And when they were tempted by the serpent, and they had to hide behind the bush, and God got angry and threw them out of the garden. And he gave them two punishments. One is, he punished three people there. One is Adam, Eve, and the serpent who tempted. And he told Adam, till you die, you have to sweat in order to earn your bread and butter. That's what men works very hard. Man works very hard from morning till evening, sweats out. And next is, he punishes Eve with his words that you have to undergo a lots of pain while giving birth. That's what. And again is, he punishes the serpent, telling that you have to crawl, you have to just crawl on the ground there, and you will be killed whenever you are seen by the people. So God had the purpose that he wanted the people to be united and to be obedient. But whenever he had the opportunity, whenever God had the opportunity, he had the opportunity of forgiving the people. When people had taken all the things for granted, and God obviously had the option of punishment. And that's what George Herbert tells. Please have compassion towards the human beings like me. Take away the rod of punishment. Let the indignation of subside and give way to coolness. Oh my God, I entreat you to adopt a mild course in dealing with the human beings like me. First four lines, he appeals to God. Next he tells, my heart, O God, is bent upon attaining an accord with your heart. It is my supreme desire to establish a complete harmony between you and myself. And he tells, he had the complete harmony. Next he tells, I don't claim to have any independence at all, either in the use of my tongue or in my eyes. I look wholly into your guidance, and both my words and my looks will obey your holy scripture. Remember one thing here, let me quote from the Bible. According to the Bible, one can do the sin with their act or with their looks. That's what Matthew chapter tells us. If you look at a girl or if you look at a man in that corrupted way of thinking, you are committing a sin. You are committing an adultery with her. If you are seeing a girl or a man walking on the road thinking that, oh, she is very beautiful or he is very handsome, can I marry her or marry him? That means you are committing an adultery that is against the will of God. And eyes, whenever we look at a person in a different angle, and we are committing a sin which is against the scripture. George Herbert tells, my tongue and my eyes will obey you. I shall act upon your message as contained in the holy book, holy scripture. Next 13 to 16 lines, and in the discipline, a poem, it tells, although I fail and I weep in my distress, and although I flatter in my onward march, yet I find myself creeping slowly and gradually to reach the majestic seat where I hope to receive your grace and your blessings. Dear Lord, wherever I commit sin, I know that I'm committing sin, but I am obedient. I have the belief that I am finding the way to reach your path or reach your place where I can find the presence of God, where I can be restrained from committing sin. That's what he tells. I hope to receive a grace and blessings. Line number 16 of discipline. And next he tells, for this reason, O God, he just comes out with the reasons, and then he tells, for this reason, O God, let your wrath be taken away. God, you have created this universe. You are the one who created human beings. You are the one who created Eden Garden, where you have put both man and woman there to enjoy the worldly pleasures, to enjoy their life. Unfortunately, they have committed sin. They have moved away from your life. But why are you punishing them very harsh? For this reason, O God, let your wrath be taken away. Give one more opportunity to the people, or one more opportunity to the mankind to turn themselves to God. And let it give way to love, which is accomplish your purpose. Because by means of love, you can melt even the hardest hearts. Look at the good suggestion given by Herbert. God, dear God, don't take a big rod and punish. Instead, try to win the people with your heart and love. Show them some compassion to turn themselves to God. Then man will be not so cruel. You will be able to soften their hearts, even the most cruel human beings. And before that, he tells, your love can melt the hardest of the hearts. That's what he tells. Dear God, please have compassion towards the human beings. Let us see what happens next. Love travels all height speed. Love is powerful like warship. Love is like a weapon which has a long range, which can hit its targets over a long distance. Dear God, you're targeting only the shorter period, shorter one. But I want the target to be quite straight and quite long. With a love, people who are quite far away, their hearts can be on. They can, even people who are staying far away can turn themselves to God. Don't be too harsh with the people, oh Lord. That's what he tells. By means of love, oh God, you can even influence persons who are long distance away from you, even who are staying quite far away from you. Even you can influence with your love, my Lord. Don't punish the people with rod. No one can escape from the arrows shot from love's bow. Is it possible? Maybe lots of conflicts in life. There is a fight. Many students are here. They have the family. You people are having the family. Just relate this incident with your life. Whenever we look into our lives, there are many ups and downs. There are strifes, there are wars, there are quarrels in our own family. Father can beat the child, or the child can get angry with the mother or sister, whatever the circumstances are, whatever the situations are. But after the quarrel, if the person comes and talks to you in a soft and gentle way, I'm so sorry, child. Don't do it again. Your heart melts like an ice. That's what the suggestion. It is an appeal to God by the poet. And he just tells, love is like a wind which has a long range, which can hit its target over long distance. By means of love, oh God, you can influence the people who are quite staying far away from you. And it is a powerful weapon which can influence the people. Which can influence the people. Let us see what happens. If your love for mankind can bring you so slow that you had to assume the sharp of human beings, if such be the case, love cannot fail to produce the desired effect on me. And he tells, if you have that particular way to approach the people will definitely turn to each other, turn to God. If your love for mankind can force you to appear on the earth in the shape of Christ, then your love must produce its effects on me also. Remember, according to Bible here, Son of Christ has come onto this earth in order to rescue the people from their sins. Lord, if you show the compassion towards the human beings through your love, definitely even the hardest people like me can be touched. Let us see what happens next. Throw away your rod of punishment, O God. Man surely has his weaknesses and shortcomings. It is very, very important line in the poem. Please underline if you have the text. Throw away the Lord, though man frailties hath, that is shortcomings and weaknesses, but you are God and you should rise above. That means rise above those weaknesses and shortcomings. You are the person who should make us to come out or come away from that particular instances. To wear the rod of punishment is therefore not proper for you. Throw away your anger and make use of your weapon of love. Look at the last line of the particular poem. Last line of the particular poem. Throw away the rod, thou art, and try to be compassionate. Try to be compassionate and try to show the things towards the human beings through your heart. George, I've just explained to you two of the poems, or I have just told you about two of the poems of Georgia, but one is Discipline and the Collar. Please, before you appear for the examination, please read through the entire poem. It's not a big poem, it's a short poem. Please go throw away the rod, means throw away your rod of punishment. Wrath means rod, punishment, and try to win the love. And just go through what are the themes that are there, and try to look at the title of that particular poems. Then only you will be able to answer. And one student just told me that he has come here to wash our sins with his blood. That's what. And that's what George Herbert appeals to God. God, don't punish the people. Try to win the hearts of the people with your love. Please go through the themes, the title, and the poem is not too difficult to comprehend, to understand. Okay? And actually, I wanted to finish off one more text today, Walpone, but I couldn't since I did not have the time. And I'll try to do it by next class. Do you have any questions to ask students? If you have any questions to ask, please ask me. Okay. Thank you, students. Tomorrow we will meet. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, dear students, and welcome to the second session of the first day uh, online classes. Remember, I was teaching in the morning this text, that is Alexander Pope's The Epilogue. So I was in a situation. I was in a the moment describing this. You know the uh, the conditions of the Belinda. Remember, the Belinda was completely in horror stricken, and she was completely dejected. And there are people to, good afternoon. There are people to enrage her anger, to take revenge against the Lord, the Baron. That is where I stopped in today's morning session. In the noon, let me complete. So, this is how she decided. In spite of Telestra's pleas, there are many people who come and they requested Lord, the Baron, to return the lock, to Lord, return the lock to the Belinda, so that our angry may be subdued. She may keep it as a memory. But what happened here? Despite of Telestra's plea, Lord Peter was still adamant, because you know that he cuts the lock. Vanity of women. They wonder at the vanity of the women. How can a woman be even adamant more than a baron? Lord Baron here. So she tells that these are all the kind of foolishness of men and women. There is nothing to be, to enrage the issue. So Clarissa felt that both men and women need good sense. The both men and women need a good sense, but in making her feeling known, she exposed tricks and deceits of women and caused Belinda's frown. So whereas whoever comes, they try to console Belinda, the Belinda is not ready to listen. Yeah, there was a battle, and both of them use a lot of snuff, the lot of the hairpins and all that. That is you know the weapon to make a battle between. Okay, and I was telling this 1 minute. So though in battle, the Belinda, and she used a lot of snuff. She uses a lot of hairpins to pinch to Baron, and these are the small weapons which can be mocked at. So these are the battle we come across, because this is not actual the battle which we see in in Greek epic, and especially epic the stories. So Telestrius gathered her force to battle with Belinda's enemies, including Clarissa and Lord Peter. Umbriel was delighted by his Homeric struggle of the teacups. See, the weapon that used by Belinda is the teacups, and snuff, the powder, and Belinda pounced upon Lord Peter, who was subdued when a pinch of snuff caused him so sneeze violently. And she takes the snuff and puff it violently, and it goes to the nostrils of the Lord Baron, and she screams with the victory. And this kind of the mocking kind of a situation is introduced by Lord the Alexander Pope in the poem. And now she's demanded to the lock. Now, if you don't get me the lock, I will not keep quiet. I can rather continue my battle. This is how she screams. Restore the lock. Return the lock. She cries. And all around, restore the lock. Better return the lock. The vaulted roofs rebounds. The moment she screams, the entire walls echoes. Not fears Othello in so loud a strain. If you look at Othello, a play by Shakespeare, even in Othello, it seems he did not demand for handkerchief from the Desdemona. Remember, Othello has given a handkerchief to Desdemona as a token of love. But when Othello demands to show from Desdemona to present the handkerchief, it seems he did not even scream so much. But whereas here, Belinda, she's screaming for the lock. You better return the lock. Roared for the handkerchief that causes pain. Even not even Othello did not cry louder on demanding the handkerchief from the Desdemona, as Belinda did. So Belinda, she's doing such a noise in terms of take it back, the lock he has written. But see how oft ambitious aim are crossed. But despite of all that, here some thought it mounted to be the lunar spare, since all things lost on earth are treasured there. But despite of lot of requisition many times, but this man, that's Lord Peter, he is not going to return the lock. Then how does he say that? She demanded the lock, but it could not be found. He said that it's not with me at all. Then where is it? He says that some thought that it had gone to the moon. I think some thought that it had gone to the moon, where also go love letters and other tokens of tender passions. The lock was missing, but the muse of poetry saw it ascend to the heaven and become star in the sky. And the Baron, he told that he does not have the lock with him, what he cuts from Belinda's, but he's not going to give it back to her. So what happened? He's but whereas the muse, whereas the last faggot of the poem, I read the lines from here, and what happens? Some believe that this log has become star in the sky, whereas that specify Belinda's anger. So the moment she heard that this has become the star in the sky, the Belinda, she's happy. The muse of the poetry tells that this log, it is amidst the star inscribed Belinda's name. If you look at the sky, there is Belinda's name is written on the top, and in that there is a log which is turned into a star. That is how they told to Belinda, and Belinda convinced. At least this the log became the star in the sky. So this is how women consoled, the women who was convinced for the lock. So dear students, so far we have studied this poem, and there is another other approach, so to better understanding of the poem, what you have to do now. So I told in the entire poem, in the beginning itself, I told the Belinda, the moment the poem opens, she's still in the afternoon. She's in the afternoon, and there are some spirits, there are some supernatural elements. They're giving a caution to Belinda to beware of all, and most beware of men. And after that, she goes to River Thames, and after that she played card play, that is a omber. It's a Spanish card game. And after that, how Lord Peter, he took a revenge, and how she was consoled in the fag end of the poem. Ultimately, so probably what Carroll, the friend of Lord Peter, requested Alexander Pope to write this poem. So Pope has written the poem and told to Thomas Carroll, and probably by reading at this poem, both the Lord Peter and this Belinda, the Baron and Belinda, they are consoled by reading the poem, because looking mocking at the entire episode, this episode is completely a mockery. This episode is completely trivial. And so when we talk about uh, you know um, when you talk about the title of the poem, you student can just listen it. There is I'm going giving you highlights on this, the characters and the title of the poem now. So far I described the entire story of the poem. So now I'm giving you what is this title talks about. The Pope has given a very suitable title to the poem. What is the title? The title is The Rape of the Lock. It clearly points out. How does it points out? It clearly points out Because since afternoon, we have been facing a lot of technical problem, and I kindly request the student to kindly cope up with this. And there will be a lot of fluctuations, but despite I continue this session, okay, but probably it will be all right after some times. So I strongly believe that. Anyhow, hope now you are able to listen. This is how, off and on. Sometime it will be stable, and sometime it's not stable due to some internet connection. I try to make sure that the next class will be a better condition in terms of internet facility, and been using, okay, the university's prevailing net connections. There is little stability in terms of today's network connection. Kindly cope up with that. And the Pope has given a very suitable title to the poem. Okay, it clearly points out that the Belinda's heir was forcefully cut off and taken away by the Baron. Okay, probably this approach may be helpful to you for the exam point of view. Okay, and you can just take down wherever you find it's very crucial and very important for the exam point of view. You can just take down. But I'm giving you my just clarification and justification for the title and whatever that I've narrated so far. Okay, so this trifling incident was the cause of great hostility between the Peters and the farmers. I told you the point number one, it is. It was clearly point out to the Belinda's hair was forcefully cut off and with intention. The point number two, this trifling incident was the cause of great hostility. The malice, the hatredness between these two, Lord Peter and the farmer's family. They belong to aristocracy family. And this incident is the main subject of the poem. Hence, the title is appropriate. So he is the one who takes revenge by cutting the lock. So what about the characters? I feel still that has to be a little more emphasis on the characters. So now I'll take up this hardly one another 10 to 15 minutes for this poem, and I'll shift over to another play. That is, the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. That it's a play. I'll take up that play now. Before that, let me give a little more, authentic documents, authentic proof, authentic explanation to this entire narration that I did so far. So most of the characters that described in the poem have been identified with one or the other person in the real life. So this is important. So this story is very much applicable to the current life, the real life. The only Clarissa remains unidentified, or only words that is charm strike the sight but merit win the soul. She's there as a messenger. She's there who gives a kind of a message to the entire humanity. Only Clarissa remains unidentified. We can't guess who she. Probably she's our own inner conscience. So our own inner conscience. But Belinda and the Peter are the two chief characters of the poem. So the main characters are, one is Belinda and the Peter are the two chief characters of the poem. So Miss Arabella Firma has been presented as Belinda here, I told you in the morning, and she represents the fashionable ladies of that period. So Belinda or Arabella Firma, she represents the clan of aristocracy, the fashionable community. She represented the fashionable ladies of that period of the restoration period. So she's devoted to all the the frivolities and the gaieties of the society, and she considers it her sacred duty to deck her cheerful with the various offerings of the world, with India's the glowing gems and Arabia's perfumes. So this Arabella farmer, our Belinda, she enjoys the India's glowing gems, because India was known for the gems, jewelries and ornaments and all that. She enjoys the India's glowing gems and Arabia's perfumes, because Arabia is a country with full of the perfumes and all that. And with the puffs, powder, and the patches, she proudly moves company of a young lords and ladies, all are attracted by her beauty on account of her extraordinary fondness of parties. And this is the lady who enjoys, who always, amidst of the celebrations, parties, and all that, ultimately, what has befallen Anapart? That is the questions. So here we have another character, that is the Baron. He's the Lord Peter, has been identified as Robert the Seventh. His name is the Robert the Seventh. I told you in the morning he's the Lord Peter. So he's called as the Baron, who cut the lock of Miss Arabella Firma. He's given all the frivolities of which all the lords and ladies of the age were the proud of. Some people are, they appreciated what he did it, because the attitudes of this Arabella Firma was extreme, outrageous. So some they found this is a kind of a lesson has been directed to all women, especially Arabella Farmer, because beauty is not permanent. It is there to diminish. It is there to you know uh, diminish. So as a result of this cutting of the lock of Belinda, a serious quarrel arises between the two families. So this is the real incident which had happened that I told in the morning. So here the John Carroll, to whom this verse was due, was the second cousins of Lord Peter. So now we understood that that is John Carroll. He's the cousins of Lord Peter, because when Lord Peter and Arabella Firma they quarrel and they're in a loggerhead, they're in animosity, or they're in quarrel every time. So he requested John Carroll requested Pope to write a poem to console these people, and he has been mentioned only in a line. Sir George Brown has been presented as Sir Plume. So here we can also understood Sir Plume is another important character. He was the first cousin of Miss Arabella's mother. So in a way, the Sir Plume is also related to Arabella Farmer, because remember he is the one who requested he that Baron has to restore the log, and he has been very faithfully represented in the poem. Thelestres has been identified with all the real characters in the novel. So I want all of you to delve deep into this poem, because there are both fact and fiction. What is a fact? The real life incident itself is a fact based on the real life incident, and we have a fiction because the characters are created, and the story has been narrated through these fictional characters. So, dear students, this is all about the Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope, and hope you people understood, and and your somehow it help you for your exam point of view. So I want you to you know I want you to read the study material and understand better. See, there are a few lines which are important. For example, the because this the I told in the morning this poem is a didactic, which has some moral instruction to give to the entire reading community. Number one, the beauty is in vain; their pretty eyes may roll. The charm strike the side, but merit win the soul. So ultimately, inner beauty is the one which always prevails. That is the real beauty, that one has to understand, not uh, you know um, any other mundane qualities, whatever. And there is another line that she screams, "Oh wretched maid!" She spread her hands and cried, the while Hampton's echoes wretched maid replied. These are the lines which are talks about the moment she lost her hair. The way she screams that she should not have gone to this Hampton Court on this day. That is the reason why she's our plight is such that she's suffering because of that she had been to this place. She thinks that she should not have gone to this place. Had she not come, this would not have done it. So these are the important lines. And another important line I told you in the morning, that is, beware of all and most beware of men. This is another day that you have to mention in your exam point of view. Okay, this is all about uh, this text, that is the Rape of the Lock. And you student, any question, one or two question if you have, you can always ask me, and when you attend the classes, offline classes too. And even now, if you have one or two doubt, you can just drop in this public message chat. So I'm there to if as much as possible try to try to give you the convincing reply, convincing answer. So if it's fine, and I'll get into another text, that is today's text, that is the tragical history of Dr. Faustus, written by Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe has, I mean, now I'm teaching you the first paper, that is English literature from Chaucer to Milton. In that paper, you have this paper, the block 4 deals with Christopher Marlowe, the Dr. Faustus. Okay, and Dr. Faustus, it is called as a Renaissance play. It is called as It is called as Renaissance play. It is called as a tragedy, Renaissance tragedy, because this play talks about revival of art, culture, knowledge, and everything. Because a man who thirsts for knowledge, the hunger for knowledge, the thirst for knowledge, and the revival of art, literature, culture, these are all the component in these are all the technique, these are all the the features you come across in Renaissance play. Renaissance, in the sense, bring back the glory of the past, the bring back the glory of this education, cultural, the art and literature and everything. So here is a man called, the Dr. Faustus, who surrender himself to this, who surrender his soul to these devils, to just to enjoy the earthly power. So this is a very important idea that you should remember. In the tragical history of the Dr. Faustus, he's surrendering his soul to the devil, and then because just to enjoy the earthly, the pleasure. So what is this all about? I just try to give you a little introduction about this class, and probably in the next class I give an elaboration. So this concept called necromancy. The Dr. Faustus is a great scholar of Wittenberg. He's a scholar, he's a theologist in the sense one who knows all branches of study. There is nothing which he has left out. Everything. He has studied all branches of study. He studied literature, art, medicine, astronomy, whatnot. So the Dr. Faustus, he is considered as a theologist, the man who knows all the branches of study. So the question is, the man who studied all branches of study, and what made him to study necromancy? Necromancy is also a branch of study which is forbidden. So necromancy is a study which is forbidden. The people are not supposed to be study this. This is a study only for the people who completely denounced. Uh, Okay, and some of you are asking what all the questions can be asked for this. You have go to study materials. You have study materials. After every chapter, you just go there and you find there are many questions. Okay, in this platform, you have to only ask some clarifications about the text. For example, could be Baron, could be Belinda, could be supernatural elements, and then regarding this technical exam point of view questions, you can just keep it aside and. You can read the study material there are extra, the questions are given. So what happened, I was talking about this our Dr. Faustus. The first session, I just take up because I must give you the entire detail about the text first. I should give you the thematic analysis of the text. I should give you the entire story in a nutshell first, then I'll just get into the questions and all that. So today, now in this session, I'm going to teach you this text, that is the paper 1, the English literature from Chaucer to Milton. The title is the Dr. Faustus, and this Christopher Marlowe. Okay, so I told you this man, Dr. Faustus, he's a theologist who knows all the branches of study, and for him, there is something which attracts. Attracts is what? It is necromancy. So practice of communicating with the dead, especially in order to predict the future. That means he's going to have a conversation with the devils to know about to predict the future. That is necromancy. So Dr. Faustus, he's going to study this necromancy. In order to study this necromancy, he has to surrender himself to the devil. How will he surrender himself? Because he pledged himself for 24 years. He'll be completely surrender himself to the devils and just to enjoy the earthly power. And after that, the due date, they can take his soul away, just to enjoy his earthly pleasure, to just to become a magician, to just to enjoy the magic. So a great scholar of the Wittenberg is suddenly fall down to the level of bottom, and where he is just to become a magician and just to become the man who knows the magic, to necromancy, and become a buffoon. I mean, almost like a comedian. Okay, so that is a story that we are going to study about a writer, a scholar of Wittenberg. So here the play begins. As usual, there is a prologue in the play. So what is a prologue? How does the play begins? So that is important. The play begins like this. The poet in this drama has no intention to sing in divine verse of the great military exploits like those in the battlefields of. Because when the play begins, we have this invocation, we have this, the prayer and all that, the prologue, and gradually after that, we come to know there is a chorus who tells the audience that the play will simply show the changes of fortunes in the life of Dr. Faustus. So the chorus is the character who is coming here and introduce the character to us. For example, even in the theater or a drama, you all know that there'll be one person who comes and tells about the entire character, and he introduces the characters and he goes away. So the same way here, the chorus of this play, the tragical history of Dr. Faustus, the chorus, it tells the audience. I'm talking about the prologue in the beginning of the text. I'm not getting to the act wise or a scene wise. So the in the beginning, the prologue, it's given by this chorus. The chorus tells the audience that the play will simply show the changes of fortune in the life of Dr. Faustus. What all has happened in the life of Dr. Faustus? He was born of humble parents in the town of Rhodes in Germany. So Dr. Faustus, he was born to a humble parents in the towns of Rhodes in Germany. He's a German scholar. He's born to a humble, the parents. And this man had led a tragic life. And he surrendered himself to the devils, Mephistopheles, Lucifer's, Beelzebub. They're the heads of hell. He wants to enjoy, he wants to communicate with the devils. He wants to study necromancy. Don't know why this scholar, the great scholar of Wittenberg, he just just to enjoy this necromancy, have a communicate with the devils to have a future, predict himself. ತನ್ನನ್ನು ತಾನೇ ಸರೆಂಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ for 24 years. Let me enjoy the earthly pleasure. Whatever he wants, everything is up right in front of him. Just name it and he gets it. All the mundane pleasure, earthly pleasure. But after that, after 24 years, he is going to surrender to the God. Devils have the right to take away his soul. Okay, this is the kind of a pledge that he made to this Mephistopheles. So the chorus is saying that, so he was born to a humble parents in towns of Rhodes in Germany. When he came to age, he was sent to Wittenberg. So he was sent to Wittenberg to study in the university there. So he went to Wittenberg to study there. Dear students, are you able to follow this text? That is the Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. He's a contemporary dramatist of Shakespeare. Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, Christopher Marlowe. They belong to this group called Elizabethan writers, the dramatist. Shakespeare, Ben Jonson, and even Christopher Marlowe. And I told you this story is talking about, this story is a Renaissance play because there is a lot of to be revival in terms of culture, knowledge, art, and everything. All are inclusive in this text. And then, he went to Wittenberg to university to study there. The very soon he attained high proficiency in theology. I told you he is a man of scholar, a theologist. I told you theologist is the one who has knowledge about all the branches of study. And very soon, the very early of his age, he attained that the kind of a supremacy, the knowledgeable person. But what happened? And very soon he attained the high proficiency in theology and was given a doctor's degree. He soon became a master of almost all branches of knowledge. He has become the master of almost all the branches of knowledge and surpassed all other scholars. He has become a theologist and he has studied all the branches of knowledge and he surpassed other scholars. But he became puffed with the pride and arrogance. The only problem he committed was that this man has become, the man of the pride and arrogance. Because pride and arrogance are the two weakness of a person, any person who leads a tragic end. So, here the pride and arrogancy, he became inordinately ambitious to acquire superhuman powers and hence stopped very low level to study the practice of the black art or a black magic. Take down. So he stooped down to the level of studying the black magic, the black art, so called necromancy. The great scholar of the Wittenberg who attained this knowledge, he became puffed up with a pride and arrogance. So he developed the arrogance and pride, and that will lead to a tragic end. That people, all of them, are aware of. So he became inordinately ambitious to acquire superhuman power. He wants to do magic. He wants to learn superhuman, the superhuman powers, and then stoop down very low to study and practice the black art of magic. And what happened? And this is how, this fasters whom you will find sitting in his study, and he is the hero of this drama. This is introduced by the chorus. The chorus is saying that this is the man, this is the person who is sitting here in his study, and he's the hero of this drama. And he's there, he's sitting over there. And the Haley, the chorus, he's introduced his character and he departs from the place. So now we are in the Act 1, Scene 1. So this drama, this play has how many acts? It has 5 acts, and I try to complete as many as possible. Today, hopefully, I try to complete Act 1, and probably from tomorrow, I'll start with the rest of the act in my next session. So now, what happens here? What happens in the Act 1? Listen. So I think now it's clear in in Act 1, in the prologue, what is happens. In the prologue, the chorus comes and he introduces the character and he disappears. So now Act 1, Scene 1, number 1. So as chorus tells, and this man is sitting in his study room and we find him there. The fastest is sitting in his reading room and speaking to himself. He's talking to himself. He's decided about his future course of studies and decided what's supposed to do next. He's gained mastery over so many subjects. He now examines the scope and the utility of all these different subjects. And now he examined the different scope and utility of all the subject that he studied. Now he talks about logic. The logic fascinates him. He was fascinated by logic. But the aim of logic is just to argue well and nothing else. If I study logic, the aim of logic is just to argue well and nothing else. So he wasn't happy with this logic. Then what does he do further? Then comes physics and medical science, which he has already mastered. But the end of the science is only good health. Good health, although it can bring him wealth and fame. Law is meant just for settling petty disputes. Even if it is a law, it is just bring the petty disputes. Divinity may be better than others. But divinity says the wages of sin is death. But divinity is always instruct people. It reprimands. So he skates. So after all these deliberations about science, logic, and medicines, and divinity and all that, there is something Your Thank you very much, and I appreciate your comment. You have commented it, and I am happy about it. So, what happened here? Uh, Divinity may be better than others, but divinity says wages to sin is death. But divinity is also, leads to some sort of, I'm glad that some students are enjoying the text and they're commenting. I could see that. So thank you. It's a huge compliment from your side. If you're able to follow it very neatly, that's fine, that's good. So law is meant just for settling petty disputes, and there's a lot of the prolonged deliberation in himself. So what to do now after a prolonged deliberations? So because nothing is fascinated him, nothing he's not happy with anything. So after a prolonged deliberation, Faustus finally makes up his mind to study with all seriousness necromancy. If I don't want law, logic, medicine, science and everything, physics and everything, I want to study seriously necromancy. Necromancy, it is a banished, it is a forsaken study. Nobody should dare to study necromancy because you're inviting devils, you're inviting ghosts just to predict what happens in the future, for which you are going to surrender yourself for 24 years. After that, the devils can come and take your life away. They can kill you. But look at that. If a person is arrogance, if the person is pride, this is going to succumb. This is going to meted out to the person. This is going to befall. This is going to happen. So, necromancy or the black art of magic, man, black magic na kalpirana, necromancy na kalpirana. So I can get the pleasure, ultimate pleasure. He decides. He's quite sure that a person adept in this art of magic becomes as powerful as a mighty god. He thinks that the person who has command over this necromancy, the black art, he thinks he's as powerful as a mighty god. He's as equivalent to the god. The Faustus then asks his servant, the Wagner, to go to his friends. The Faustus, this is what happening in the Act 1. Remember, getting my point, it's happening in the Act 1. It is a drama, it's enacting. Faustus then asks his servant, that is Wagner. Dr. Faustus has a servant called Wagner, to go to his friends. Wagner, come. You have to do me a favor. The favor is very simple. That go to my friends. That is the Wilders and Cornelius. My friends are there. Go to them and request them to come and meet me because I have to take the advice. He considered the advice to be of a great help to him to learn this art. Probably, in case if they advise me better, that is a great advice. That's a great help. And moreover, in case if they say so, I'm there to accept it. I'm going to study necromancy. It doesn't matter. Let the devils come and take away my soul after 24 years. So when he is left alone, this is also one of the reasons of the mystery plays and morality plays. Morality plays in the sense there is some moral, ಕೆಲವು ನೀತಿ ಪಾಠಗಳಿರುತ್ತೆ. So Dr. Faustus, it is considered as a morality play because the introducing good angel and evil angel. Good angel ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ, Dr. Faustus, ನೀನು ಎಂಥ ಮಹಾನ್ ಥಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟು, you know all branches of studies. You ತುಂಬಾ expertise in your knowledge. Why are you going to study this necromancy, black magic? It's a damn study. Give it aside. Don't do that. Evil angel appears before him and tells him that study. It tells that it carry on with his study in the black art as proficiency in that will make him as powerful as God on this earth. You're as equivalent to the God. You're as powerful as a God. Take on, study necromancy. Whereas good angel tells him, just strongly believe the holy scriptures, putting aside this cursed book of magic, the forbidden, ನಿಷೇಧಿಸಿರುವಂತಹ forbidden study ಆಗಿರೋ black art, black magic, necromancy. Just throw the book away. Don't do that. evil angel says, instruct him to the right path. Whereas the black man, this evil angel, it tells him, no, you have to take this study because you'll be as powerful as God on this earth. This is how we understand that but the later encourage him to carry on with this study, that the black heart has proficiency in that will make him as powerful as God on this earth. So after the departure of the angels, he feels inspired to study this art and begins to dream of achieving supernatural powers and performing miraculous feast with the spirits of hell at his command. He wants to command, all the spirits of evil, and he wants to achieve the supernatural power. He wants to achieve. He has a big dream of achieving something big, and ultimately he decided to to study necromancy. So this leads to this the tragical history of the Dr. Faustus. Now, what happens? And you have this. Meanwhile, Wilders and Cornelius, the two friends of Dr. Faustus, they arrive, and Faustus tells him that he has discarded all other subject of studies in favor of necromancy. I am going to study necromancy, so I have discarded all the subject. So he made it very clear. He told his friends very clear that he is not going to study anything except necromancy. Is the ultimate study that I do because I want to do a magic. And Faustus informs them that it is magic and magic only that has enraptured his soul, and is fully determined to learn this great art. Hues, the whole, his soul is, enraptured by his, this study, determined to learn this great art. He requests them to give him lessons on magic so that he may raise the spirits of the underworld. So I can raise the spirit, I can be a ultimate superior. So I'll be as equivalent as a god. So I'll be as powerful as equivalent as a god. So I'll be supreme. But in a way, this shows, Dr. Faustus, the arrogance and the pride and the conceitness. Meanwhile, the Wagner, the servant of Faustus, appears on the scene. The two friends of Faustus ask about his whereabouts, but the servant evade the questions and starts, jesting with the scholars to befool them for a while. And when they ask, Wagner, where about Dr. Faustus, and he did not tell them actually where is he, because he's determined to study necromancy. Their two friends are shocked to learn that the Faustus is enjoying the company of two notorious persons skilled in the black art. Those notorious persons, this excel of the university so that he may do something to reclaim Faustus. So they decided to inform to the rector of the university so that they try to bring him back. But what happens? But of all the sudden, of all of a sudden, Mephistopheles, the great lieutenant of the Prince of Hell, is up before him in his ugly shape. Faustus dismisses him instantly, asking him to come back with the shape of the fair. Mephistopheles leaves because devils are look so terrible, and the moment he looks at them, and he told them to come with a better shape. So Dr. Faustus, he's completely surrendering himself to study necromancy, and there is nothing can change his decision. The Faustus tells him that he has already done so and has completely surrendered to the devil. So he told his friend that he surrendered to the devil. When Faustus wants to know more about his master, Mephistopheles tells him that the Lucifer was also an archangel, but he was thrown out of the kingdom because of his, impertinence and inordinate ambition. And all those who joined him to rebel against God met with the same fate, just like himself. So this Lucifer and the Mephistopheles, they went against God and they were thrown to the hell. They are there in the hell, but they are now doomed to hell forever. They are there in the hell forever. Mephistopheles then with remorse that to lose heavenly joys and bliss means living in hell perpetually, and you have to give up all your the religious sacred, and you have to accept this hell forever, so that you will get this the power of necromancy, and you will predict what happens in the future, and you can converse with the devils and all that. And but Faustus informs him that he is determined to surrender his soul to the devil on condition that he will be permitted to live for 24 years, leading a life full of unbridled sensuous pleasure of the world, with Mephistopheles as his constant companion to carry out all his order and to fulfill all his desires. So Mephistopheles is always there in the entire 24 years, so he can get everything that he desired for, all the earthly pleasure, everything, and only for 24 years. And after that, his soul can be taken away by the devils, and after that they're going to kill him. And what happens then? Has his constant companion to carry out all his orders and to fulfill all his desires. Next he asks Mephistopheles to go to his master and carry his message. Ultimately, Mephistopheles, he goes and he informs this Lucifer, that is our character, that is our the one who learns necromancy, the black art. He's going to surrender to entire himself to the this the black art, and to study the necromancy. So now the action takes place in a street where Wagner, the servant of Faustus, meets a rustic rather than a clown. The rustic first takes offense with Wagner, and they start around the street and all that. So now, and he decided to do all this magical thing. Now because still we have some 10 minutes, let me also try to go forward to take this act 2 also to explaining to people. So act 2 begins, the midnight is approaching, the faster is alone in his study. The faster is in study, and he is once more a prey to diffidence and vacillation. He's talking to himself, so he developed this fascination to talking to himself because he's getting the supreme power. And Faustus ultimately feels there is no use of thinking of heaven and God, as nothing can save him now from eternal damnation, because there is nothing going to going to save him. The only is eternal damnation, because he is completely surrenders. How does he surrenders? And he has to make a pledge, he has to make a bond by writing the by using the blood, his own blood, in a bond sheet. And while he cuts his hand, the blood congeals. Listen, while he cuts his hand, the blood congeals. So to this Mephistopheles, he has to write a bond for which he has to pledge his soul, and he has to write it in a sheet. He has to pledge it, right? So he has to give it in a bond. And the moment, how does he write? He's not going to write in a pen. He has to write through his own blood. So the moment he cuts his hand, when the blood comes, blood immediately congeals. ಆ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಆ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಅದು ಕಂಜೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹೆಪ್ಪುಗಟ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಅವನ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಅದು ಹೆಪ್ಪುಗಟ್ಟಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ there is a divine reprimand. The God is indirectly giving a caution. What is the caution? ನೋಡು, ನೀನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ. The blood has to be liquid, right? He has to take and write, but it's become a congeal. What Dr. Faustus does before he makes an agreement ಏನ ನನ್ನ ರಕ್ತದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಿಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅವನು. ಸೊ ಹಿ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ದ ಬರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕೋಲ್, ಉರಿತಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಬರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಕೋಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಹಿ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಪುಟ್ ಆನ್ ದಟ್ ಕನ್ಸೀಲ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್, ಹೆಪ್ಪುಗಟ್ಟಿರೋ ರಕ್ತದ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ದ ಕನ್ಜೀಲ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಟರ್ನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಹಿ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಅಗೇನ್. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ಒಂದು arrogance, the pride, the thirst for knowledge, this extremity, it is there in Dr. Faustus, and he wrote an agreement and he gave it to him. So now nothing can be done. He can't remember. He cannot He can't think about God now. So what he has to do, the only thing is that he has to, whatever befall on his fault further has to be the only thing. So wealth and power, the wealth and power, otherwise he would prove himself a fool by believing in false and the fanciful ideas, okay, about hell, heaven, and God's mercy. But the word wealth clinches the issue. He succumbed to the temptation of power and pef. So he was tempted by this power and the pef. Pef in the sense money gaining, dishonestly. For example, if you become a supreme in over a day, and he wants that. For him, life is not at all important. He doesn't want to remorse God. He doesn't want to remember God. For him, the only thing is left is to, think about God. Nothing, I mean, think about the devil, nothing else, because he's gaining the knowledge of this black magic. And so, after the departure of the angels, Mephistopheles appears again and informs Faustus that he has secured Lucifer's approval to be his constant companion. So, after the departure of the angels, Mephistopheles appears again and informs Faster that he has secured Lucifer's approval. Lucifer, he's the head of the hell, and Mephistopheles, he's also another ghost, devil, and he's there to command and give instruction to Dr. Faustus. And Lucifer's approval to his constant companion and to serve him by all means, provided he is prepared to surrender his soul to the devils and renounce the Trinity in a deed of gift to be written with his own blood. I told you he has written in his own blood, and he made this agreement, and he decided to give this bond an agreement to Mephistopheles and Lucifer. He accepts the terms and writes the deed after stabbing his own arm. I told that he is going to stab his own arm. So he's going to stab his own hand, and he takes the blood and writes and give the agreement. And then what happens? So at this, he accepts the term and writes the deed after stabbing his own arm. At first, the blood congeals and makes him perplexed. So he was perplexed for a while, confusion ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. But Mephistopheles warns him and writing it done as required. So here, he Mephistopheles wants him, and Dr. Faustus, he also make it, and he has to write, and he wrote and give it to him. According to the terms, Mephistopheles will be at the beck and call of Faustus. Beck and call in the sense the person who, the moment he expects somebody's presence, he's there. For example, Mephistopheles, get me this. Mephistopheles is present then and there. So Mephistopheles is a beck and call for Dr. Faustus for 24 years, serving him to his entire satisfaction. After this stipulated period, Lucifer will get the full right to carry his soul to hell for eternal damnation. That's what he says. After the 24 the years, Lucifer can take he has the right to take the soul of Dr. Faustus for the eternal damnation. And this is what, so now he's now very keen to have the most beautiful maid as his wife. So now his demand started. Are you able to listen me? Are you getting my the narration, I mean the explanation? Hope you believe. So I hardly take another 2 minutes, and I just wind up the today's session. So now the moment the first demand by Dr. Faustus from this Mephistopheles and the Lucifer is, he's now very keen to have a most beautiful woman as a wife. And again, a beautiful maid as a wife. Anta, he puts a demand. Mephistopheles, he dislikes the idea of marriage and just bring a devil dressed like a woman who annoys him. But whereas in the hell, there is no beautiful woman, there is no beautiful wife. And Mephistopheles, he denies, he dislikes the idea of marriage. Narakake bando, helge bando, he's asking for the beautiful wife. And whereas Mephistopheles dislikes, ili a concept illa. There is no, the idea of marriage is not at all there. There is, so how do you get a wife here? just brings a devil dressed like a woman who annoys him. He gives her devils in the form of a woman, and Dr. Faustus, it disdained it. Tiraskaras. It tells Faustus that the marriage is nothing but a silly, idle ceremony. We believe that the marriage is a sacred institution. But here, in hell, the what Mephistopheles tells him, he tells Faster that marriage is nothing but a silly, idle ceremony. If he really desires the company of women, he will fetch for him any woman that fascinates him. Next, Mephistopheles offers him some books which they will enable him to perform miracles like getting gold, causing whirlwind and storms, also acquiring mastery over astrology, botany, and other sciences. So after that, here the Mephistopheles he gives some books which from which Dr. Faustus can gain his knowledge on getting gold and creating, causing the whirlwind and storms and all that, and even to learn about astronomy, botany, and other sciences. So now I stop here. In Act Two, I'm stopped. Tomorrow I'll begin with the rest of the scenes. And dear students, so far whatever I just explained about this text, that is the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. So hope you enjoyed this session. And so far I've taught you one mock epic, which is there for 10 marks. And this is another text. It's also very important text for the exam point of view. I believe that so far you have enjoyed the text. And I'll meet you tomorrow in the tomorrow's session. Any question that you have, you can ask me one or two questions about the text. And then I stop the session. Thank you, people. Any one or two questions if you have, you can just ask me only in pertaining to the explanation, the whatever I've taught you so far about these two texts. And if there is no, I'll just stop the session, and we will begin tomorrow. Thank you very much. Wish you good luck and see you tomorrow, people. So I'm going to leave this session. So this is the some of you are asking which paper it is. English literature from Chaucer to Milton. This is the first paper, hardcore 1.1, and there the block 4, Christopher Marlowe's the Dr. Faustus. That is the text. Okay. Yes. See you people then. I'm going to leave the session.